Welcome back everyone in second session or second lecture of thermal properties of matter. In previous lecture we discussed still thermal expansion and its three types, that is linear, aerial and volume expansion. Right now we are going to start with specific heat capacity. First of all we are going to start specific heat capacity of solids and liquids. The temperature or heat gives equal amounts of heat energy to each liquid. It seems that different substances require different amount of heat to cause the same temperature rise of 1 degree Celsius in the same mass of 1 kg. What is specific heat capacity? The amount of heat per unit mass absorbed or rejected by the substance to change its temperature by 1 unit. According to your textbook, it is defined as the amount of heat per unit mass absorbed or given out by the substance to change its temperature by 1 unit, that is 1 degree Celsius or 1 Kelvin. Let us consider the specific heat capacity is the property of a body substance which determines the change in temperature of the substance undergoing no phase change when a given quantity of heat is absorbed by it is called specific heat capacity. In case of gas, slight change in temperature is accompanied with considerable change in both the volume and pressure. If gas is heated at constant pressure, volume changes and therefore some work is done on the surroundings during expansion requiring additional heat. As a result, specific heat at constant pressure is greater than specific heat at constant volume takes place. If the amount of substance is specified in terms of moles instead of mass m in kg, we can define heat capacity per mole of the substance by 1 upon m into delta Q upon delta T. If we consider m is equal to 1 kg and delta T is equal to 1 degree Celsius, देखो ये दोनों हमने 1 पकड़ लिए, then S will become equal with delta Q. If the gas is held under constant pressure during the heat transfer, then it is called the molar specific heat capacity at constant pressure and denoted by Cp. On the other hand, if the volume of the gas is maintained during the heat transfer, then the corresponding molar specific heat capacity is called molar specific heat at constant volume and it's denoted by Cv. Basically, I'll just repeat this according to your textbook. The specific heat capacity of a gas at constant volume is defined as the quantity of heat absorbed or released for the rise or fall of temperature of unit mass of a gas through 1 Kelvin when its volume is kept constant. And the principle of specific heat capacity at constant pressure is defined as the quantity of heat absorbed or released for the rise or fall of temperature of unit mass of a gas through 1 Kelvin or 1 degree Celsius when pressure is kept constant. And molar specific heat capacity is defined as quantity of heat absorbed or released for the rise or fall of temperature of 1 mole of the gas through 1 Kelvin. There are again two types, one when volume kept constant and another one when pressure kept constant. Owing to its high specific heat capacity, water warms up much more slowly than land during summer and consequently wind from the sea has the cooling effect. So this is all about specific heat and its capacities. Now the specific heat equation is given by the same method, that is S is equal to 1 upon mQ by T. So according to that, Q will be equal with m into delta T into S. The relationship between principal specific heat capacity and molar specific heat capacity is Cp is equal to mu into Sp and Cv is equal to mu into Sv. Please note down Cp is equal to mu into Sp, that is both are at constant pressure, and Cv is equal to mu into Sv, both are at constant volume. If a substance has specific heat capacity, it means that heat energy 1000 joule rises the temperature of 1 kg of the substance by 1 degree Celsius. सही है? Then heat received or given out is equal to, that is Q is equal to, you can write S, that is specific heat capacity, into M, that is mass, into delta T, that is temperature change. So Q is equal to M delta T into S. When you consider delta T is equal to 1, that heat capacity of a body is a quantity of heat needed to raise or lower the temperature by whole body by 1 degree Celsius. तो यहाँ पे अगर आप लोगों ने डेल्टा T इज इक्वल टू 1 पकड़ लिया तो ये क्या हो जाएगा, Q इज इक्वल टू M into S. Why? Because of delta T is equal to 1. So this is called as heat equation, that is Q is equal to Sm into delta T. If delta T is equal to exactly 1 degree Celsius, Q will become M into S. Now heat and temperature के बारे में बहुत डिस्कस हो गया. हीट मेजर किससे की जाती है? टेम्परेचर तो हमें पता चला है, वी आर यूजिंग थर्मोमीटर फॉर दैट. नाउ for heat what? Here we are start with calorimetry. Calorimetry is the act of measuring the heat of chemical reactions or physical changes or the science of making such measurements. It is the experimental technique for the quantitative measurement of heat exchange. To make such measurement, a calorimeter is used. A system is said to be isolated if no exchange or transfer of heat occurs between the system and its surrounding. When different parts of an isolated system are at different temperatures, a quantity of heat transfers from the part at higher temperature to the part at lower temperature. The lost heat by the part at higher temperature is equal to the heat gained by the part at lower temperature. Calorimetry means measurement of heat. When a body at higher temperature is brought in contact with another body at lower temperature, the heat lost by the hot body is equal to the heat gained by the colder body, provided no heat is allowed to escape to the surrounding. We are using calorimeter over here to measure that heat. It consists of cylindrical vessel made of copper or aluminium and provided with a stirrer and a lid. A calorimeter is well insulated to prohibit any transfer of heat into or out of the calorimeter. One important use of calorimeter is to determine the specific heat of the substance using the principle of conservation of energy. We are dealing with heat energy and the system is isolated from the surrounding. Therefore, heat gain is equal to the heat loss. You can see it over here. A vessel is kept inside a woolen jacket which contains heat insulating materials like glass wool. आप यहाँ देख सकते हो काम कैसे करता है. इनर जैकेट किसका है? आउटर जैकेट एक्ट्स एज अ हीट शील्ड and reduces the heat loss from the inner vessel. There is an opening in the outer jacket through which a mercury thermometer can be inserted into a calorimeter. ये यहाँ से लगाया जा सकता है. You can see it over here. There is one equation in your textbook. Just make bracket to this equation, that is S3. S1 is equal to M2 S2 plus M3 S3 T minus T2 upon M1 T1 minus T. S3 is equal to M1 S1, T1 minus T divided by M3 T minus T2 minus M2 S2 upon M3. यहाँ पे आपके पास notifications है M1 mass of the sample A, M2 mass of the calorimeter and stirrer, M3 mass of the water in calorimeter, S1 specific heat capacity of substance at sample A, S2 of material of calorimeter and S3 is of water. T1 initial temperature of sample A, T2 initial temperature of the calorimeter, stirrer and water, T3 final temperature of the combined system. So in this way you can find out values. Moving towards next point, that is change of state. First of all, we have to discuss about what is the principle behind the change of state. Matter normally exists in three states: solid, liquid and gas. Right? So, a transition from one of these states to another is called as change of state. Two common changes of state are solid to liquid and liquid to gases. You can see it over here. Solid to liquid, that is latent heat of fusion. Liquid to gases, that is latent heat of vaporization. And gas to again solid, or liquid to solid, that is latent heat of sublimation. So there are three parts which we are going to discuss, that is what is latent heat of fusion, what is vaporization and what is sublimation too. These changes can occur when the exchange of heat takes place between the substance and its surroundings. To study the change of state on heating or cooling, let us perform the following activity. Take some cubes of ice in a beaker. Note the temperature of ice. Start heating it slowly on the constant heat source. Note the temperature after every minute. Continuously stir the mixture of water and ice. Now for this, let us consider there are three stages. From point A to point B, let us consider this is A, B, C and D. From point A to point B, we can see there is no change in temperature from point A to point B. This means the temperature of the ice both does not change even though heating is continuously supplied. That is, the temperature remains constant until the entire amount of ice melts. Now second one, for this let us discuss about few basic things. The change of state from solid to liquid is called melting, and from liquid to solid is called solidification. Both the solid and liquid states of the substance coexist in thermal equilibrium during the change of states from solid to liquid and vice versa. The temperature at which the solid and the liquid state of substance are in thermal equilibrium with each other is called melting point of solid or freezing point of liquid. The melting point of a substance at one standard atmospheric pressure is called its normal melting point. Now, moving towards from point B till point D, the temperature begins to rise from point B to point C. After the whole of ice gets converted into water, we continue further heating. After that, temperature begins to rise. The temperature keeps on rising till it reaches at point C. Then again it becomes steady. देखो यहाँ पे it observed that the temperature remains constant until the entire amount of the liquid is converted into the vapor. The heat supplied is now being utilized to the change water from liquid state to vapor or gaseous state. This change of state from liquid to vapor is called vaporization, while that from vapor to liquid is called condensation. Both the liquid and vapor states of the substance coexist in thermal equilibrium during the change of state from liquid to vapor. The temperature at which The liquid and vapor states of the substance coexist. It's called boiling point of liquid or steam point of liquid. The boiling point of a substance at one standard atmospheric pressure is called normal boiling point. I just read it as per your textbook because of these all are definitions and you have to learn it word to word. The change of state from solid to liquid is called melting and from liquid to solid is fusion. It is observed that the temperature remains constant until the entire amount of substance melts. Both the solid and liquid states of the substance coexist in thermal equilibrium during the change of state from solid to liquid. You can see it over here, solid to liquid, solidification, gas to liquid, condensation, liquid to gas, evaporation, and solid to liquid, melting point. The temperature at which solid and liquid states of the substance in thermal equilibrium with each other is called melting point. You can just draw this diagram in your notebook and find out कितने सारे different values. Liquid to solid freezing, solid to gas sublimation, gas to liquid condensation, solid to liquid melting, liquid to gas vaporization, gas to solid deposition. Just go through that once in short. Then we'll start with next point, that is sublimation. You can see it over here. Solid to gas directly जब हो रहा है, that is called as sublimation. But there are few things related to that. We are going to discuss that. Next point, what is sublimation? Generally, we know that all substances do not pass through the three states, solid, liquid and gases. There are certain substances which normally pass from the solid to the vapor state directly and vice versa. The change from solid to vapor state without passing through liquid is called sublimation and the substance is sublime. For example, we can say dry ice and iodine. During this process, both solid and vapor states of substance coexist in thermal equilibrium. According to phasor diagram, we can just discuss few things, that is vaporization curve, fusion curve, sublimation curve and triple point. Let's start one by one. The curve labeled IV represents those points where the liquid and the vapor phase are in equilibrium. It is a graph of boiling point versus pressure. The curve correctly shows that at a pressure of 1 atmosphere, the boiling points of water is 100 degrees Celsius and the boiling point is lowered for a decreased pressure. Second one, fusion curve, that is L versus S. This curve represents the points where the solid liquid phase coexist in equilibrium. Thus, the graph of the freezing point versus pressure. At one standard atmospheric pressure, the freezing point of water is 0 degrees Celsius. Also, at a pressure of 1 standard atmosphere, water is in the liquid phase. The temperature is between 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. Third one, sublimation curve. The curve labeled SV curve is the sublimation point versus pressure curve. Water sublimates at pressure less than 0.0060 atmosphere, while carbon dioxide, which is in the solid state, is called dry ice, sublimates even at atmospheric pressure at low temperature than -78 degrees Celsius. Last one, triple point. The temperature and pressure at which fusion curve, the vaporization curve and sublimation curve meet and all the three phases of the substance coexist is called triple point. You can see it over here. in all, both diagrams, this is equal point where three of them, that is sublimation curve, vaporization curve, as well as the fusion curve coincides. Okay. Now, a substance which is in the gaseous phase and is above its critical temperature is called gas, and a substance which is in the gaseous phase and below its critical temperature is a vapor. This is main difference between gas form and vapor form of the substance. The quantity of heat required to change the state of unit mass of the substance without changing temperature is latent heat. I'll repeat. The quantity of heat required to change the state of unit mass of the substance without changing its temperature is called latent heat. It is given by m into L, where m is mass of the substance and L is latent heat. Unit is joule per kg. The quantity of heat required to convert unit mass of the substance from its solid state to the liquid state at its melting point without any change in its temperature is called latent heat of fusion. The quantity of heat required to convert unit mass of the substance from its liquid state to vapor state at its boiling point without any change in temperature is called latent heat of vaporization. Now, after these all introductory part regarding heat, we are going to start with heat transfer. Heat may be transferred from one point of the body to another in three different ways: by conduction, by convection, and by radiation. Heat transfers through solids by conduction. Let's start first part regarding conduction. What is the principle behind conduction? It is the mechanism of transfer of heat between two adjacent parts of a body because of their temperature difference. Suppose one end of a metallic rod is put in a flame and the other end of the rod will soon be so hot that you cannot hold it by your bare hands. The heat transfer takes place by conduction from hot end of the rod, its different parts, to the other end. Gases are poor thermal conductors, while liquids can conductivities intermediate between solids and gases. Heat conduction may be described quantitatively as the time rate of heat flow in a material for a given temperature difference. Consider a metallic bar of length L and uniform cross-section area A with its two ends maintained at different temperatures. So when we consider conduction, conduction is the process by which heat flows from the hot end to the cold end of a solid without any net bodily movement. This is important part: without any net bodily movement of the particles of the body. Heat passes through solids by conduction only. We say that heat has been conducted from the hot end to the cold end. When one end of the rod is heated, the molecules there vibrate faster. As they collide with their slow-moving neighbors, they transfer some of their energy by collision to these molecules, which in turn transfer energy to their neighboring molecules still further down the length of the rod. When we consider thermal conductivity, it is the measure of ability of solid to conduct heat through it. Therefore, good conductors of heat have higher thermal conductivity than bad conductors. Now there is one equation in your textbook. You can say The heat conducted is directly proportional to the cross-sectional area, directly proportional to the temperature difference between two faces, directly proportional to the time, and inversely proportional to the perpendicular distance between hot and cold faces. So according to that, you can write Q is proportional to A, T1 minus T2 into T divided by X. Let's take proportionality constant as K. So Q is equal to K A T1 minus T2 into T divided by X. This K is coefficient of thermal conductivity and it is defined as the quantity of heat that flows in 1 second between the opposite faces of a cube of side 1 meter, the faces being kept at the temperature difference of 1 degree Celsius or 1 Kelvin. It is the rate of flow of heat per unit area per unit temperature gradient between the heat flow is at right angles to the faces of thin parallel sided slab of material. I repeat, coefficient of thermal conductivity of a material defined as the rate of flow of heat per unit area per unit temperature gradient when the heat flow is at right angles to the faces of thin parallel sided slab of material. What is thermal resistance? When we consider the value Q by T, that is Ka T1 minus T2 upon X. देखो यहाँ पे Q by T is equal to Ka T1 minus T2 upon X. At that time X upon Ka अगर आपने लिया तो ये वैल्यू क्या बन जाएगा? X upon Ka is equal to T1 minus T2 divided by Q और यहाँ पे मल्टीप्लाइड बाय T हो जाएगा. This X upon Ka term is called as thermal resistance. मैं वापस रिपीट कर रही हूँ. If I take X upon Ka, this equation becomes T1 minus T2 upon Q into T. This X upon Ka term जो हम लोग लेने वाले हैं, that is called as thermal resistance. This is all about conduction. Moving towards next point, convection. Let's start. What is principle behind convection? Convection is the mode of heat transfer by actual motion of matter. It is possible only in fluids. Convection can be natural or forced also. In natural convection, gravity plays an important part. When a fluid is heated from below, the hot part expands and therefore becomes less dense. Convection involves bulk transport of different parts of the fluid. In forced convection, material is forced to move by a pump or by some other physical means. The common example of forced convection system are forced air heating systems in home, a human circulatory system, and the cooling system of an automobile engine. In a human body, the heart acts as the pump that circulates blood through different parts of the body, transferring heat by forced convection and maintaining it at a uniform temperature. We can consider this as an application of convection also. When a body, that is hot body, is in contact with air under ordinary conditions, like air around a firewood, the air removes heat from the body by a process called free convection. Exactly opposite to this, we already discussed, that is forced convection. So we can say the convection of a body is transfer of heat with actual migration of particles. Without actual migration of particles. There are few applications also, that is heating and cooling of rooms, cooling of transformers. इसका जो working है, the mechanism of heating a room by a heater is entirely based on convection. The air molecules in immediate contact with the heater are heated up. These air molecules acquire sufficient energy and rise upward. The cool air at the top being denser moves down to take their places. ये सब की वजह से क्या होता है? रूम हीट एंड कूल होती जाती है. सेम हैपन्स विथ कूलिंग ऑफ transformers also. Last part of heat transfer, that is radiation. The transfer of heat energy from one place to another via emission of EM energy without heating the intervening medium is called radiation. What is the principle behind radiation? The third mechanism for heat transfer needs no medium. It is called radiation. And the energy so radiated by electromagnetic waves called radiant energy. In an electromagnetic wave, electric and magnetic fields oscillate in a space and time. Like any wave, electromagnetic waves can have different wavelengths and can travel in vacuum with the same speed, namely the speed of light. Why heat transfer by radiation does not need any medium and why it is so fast. This is how heat is transferred to the earth from the sun through empty space. All bodies emit radiant energy, whether they are solid, liquid or gaseous. The electromagnetic radiation emitted by a body by virtue of its temperature, like the radiation by a red hot iron or light from a filament lamp, is called thermal radiation. When this thermal radiation falls on other bodies, it is partly reflected and partly absorbed. The amount of heat that a body can absorb by radiation depends on the color of the body. I hope you understand these all things, that is how heat will transfer with the method of convection, conduction and radiation. Moving towards last part of this chapter, well-known concept to all of us, that is Newton's law of cooling. If hot water in a vessel is kept on table, it begins to cool gradually. To study how a given body can cool on exchanging heat with its surrounding, the experiment which is performed is called as Newton's law of cooling. In this, a calorimeter is filled up to 2/3 of its capacity with boiling water and is covered. A thermometer is fixed through a hole in the lid and its position is adjusted so that the bulb of the thermometer is fully immersed in water. The calorimeter vessel is kept in a constant temperature enclosure or just in open air, since room temperature will not change much during experiment. In this way, we are going to take readings each after either 1 minute or half minute. After taking that, plot a graph of time versus temperature. It's like a cooling curve. And according to Newton's law, we can say that, let's see it over here. I'll repeat this with the help of PPT. Take some water, say 30 ml, in a calorimeter with a stirrer and cover it with 2-hole lid. Fix a thermometer through a hole in the lid and make sure that the bulb of thermometer is immersed in the water. This reading T1 is the temperature of the surrounding. Heat the water kept in the thermometer till it attains a temperature. Then stop heating the water by removing the heat source. Start the stopwatch and note the readings of the thermometer after fixed interval of time, say after each 1 minute. Continue to note the temperature of water till it attains a temperature about 5 degrees Celsius above the room temperature or surroundings. Then the plot of graph of taking each value of temperature along y-axis and corresponding value of T along x-axis. So according to Newton's law of cooling, the rate of loss of heat delta T upon delta T, one dt is related to temperature and another dt is related to time of a body, is directly proportional to the difference of temperatures of the body and the surrounding, provided the difference in temperatures is small. Mathematically, we can say delta T upon dt is equal to C into T minus T naught. So this is all about this chapter. I hope you understood everything. It's quite easy chapter, basically on the basis of theory part, like 80%. Only three derivations are there. One is of thermal expansion with solids, that is with length, with volume and with area, and rest all things are theory part. Please go through this chapter thoroughly. For any doubt, you can always contact us. I'll stop here for now. Thank you.